Welcome to the 862 channel. We're going to start things off with a bang here by taking this engine out of my 1977 GMC camper, throw that set of Vortec heads on it, that fresh dual plane intake, a new set of headers, brand new dual exhaust, redo the engine bay, do a ton of work to this thing, then drive it over 5,000 miles across North America and back. And we have just about a month to do it. So this is going to get a little interesting. This is my 1977 GMC square body. It's a 1500 series. It's been a great truck for me. I've driven it across the country once, driven it hundreds of miles on different trips. It's got a camper on the back, so it works pretty good for boondocking and overlanding and things of that nature. I love going camping in it. So what we're going to be doing now is getting it ready for another trip, adding a little bit of horsepower to it, cleaning up the engine bay, and just giving it a good once-over before we drive it across the country again. So what we're going to do right now is just see if it'll start. It's been sitting here all winter long. Haven't touched it. We're just going to throw the key in it and see if this old carburetor will fire up for us. And then we'll get it onto the other side and do some work to it. I'm just going to go ahead and crank it without touching the gas. I don't want to have it fire up right off the bat if hopefully we can get some oil pressure built here. Just watching it, just built oil pressure, so we'll go ahead and give it a couple pumps of gas here. See if she'll fire up for us. Maybe a few more pumps. Like I say, it's been sitting all winter long, so. Well, she fired there. There she goes. Taking off. Not bad for sitting since, late October. There we go. We'll let her sit here and warm up a little bit, and then we'll move it over. So as you can see, it runs great. There's really no reason to take it apart other than I just want more power. In the engine bay, when I bought the truck, it had this motor in it. The guy didn't know much about it. It was just what was in it when he bought it. The casting code makes it a 1980 Corvette motor. Don't know if that's right or not. That's what it says. It is a blue engine originally, so it is a later one. It's a two-piece rear main, I know that. Nothing fancy. low compression heads. I think it has a mild camshaft in it. Nothing too serious here. So plan is, in 5.5, 6 weeks, my girlfriend and I are gonna drive this truck to Alberta, Canada. It's a roughly 8,000 kilometer trip I have planned. Mostly through Canada on the way there. A lot of rocky terrain, a lot of hills, forests. It's beautiful countryside. I've already done the drive once in this truck. It's a blast. You see everything out of these old trucks. There's just nothing really to block your view. I love traveling long distance in this thing. But like I say, the plan is in 6 weeks, 5.5 roughly, we're leaving. So before that, we're pulling this motor, changing the cylinder heads, changing the intake, new carburetor, new exhaust, headers, repainting the firewall, brake master, brake booster. Gonna reinforce the firewall for where I did the hydraulic clutch conversion. It flexes just a little bit, so I figure before I paint it, I might add a brace to it. We'll see. But yeah, and then everything else just a once over, change all the fluids. Hopefully we get it all done. Worst case scenario, I'll probably end up putting this exhaust back on it for a little while, but I'd like to get it all done right in this rip. That'd save me taking it all apart again later, but we'll see what we get done. Before we get too carried away taking this thing apart, it'd be a good idea to test fit a couple items. Like these headers I've picked up. I got these at Summit Racing. I went down to the Ohio store and I picked them up just to save a couple bucks on shipping. I was kind of in the area, so it was an easy call to make. To be honest, I'm not even sure how they produce and sell these for the price. They are only a few $100s. They're made out of 304 stainless steel. They're beautifully welded. They're very nice pieces. We'll see how they last. Obviously, right off the hop, we're going to be giving them a really good test drive. So, but yeah, we got to test fit them here, see what they got to bash or clearance them a little bit, if at any. That side's already on and it looks like it fits great. One thing we are going to be doing is building a transmission crossmember likely to clear the dual exhaust, because if you know these trucks, they have a really odd crossmember. It's kind of like an S shape. It makes running dual exhausts a bit tricky. So I'm probably just going to go ahead and make one and then probably get it powder coated, and should look pretty nice. But first, we're going to go ahead and take the hood off. Obviously the engine's coming out, so it's got to come off anyways. Might as well do it. Unfortunately, it's usually a two-man job, and I'm the only guy here right now, so we're just gonna wing it. I've done it before. Luckily, it's a patina truck, so you know, what's another scratch if it happens. So yeah, let's take this thing off. We'll hopefully be careful. Try not to latch it because that would make for a bad day. You gotta be about 6 feet tall to do this job, apparently. Just can't quite reach that. You stay there. If we get up here. Oh. You're gonna wanna make sure the truck's in some sort of gear. That was just a test. Make sure you're paying attention. All right, nothing to it. So there you go. Definitely not a how-to, but it's a how I do it. You could do this as well by yourself. If you have any shiny paint, definitely don't. It's not the best way to do it, obviously, but it is late at night and everybody that could come help is probably in bed right now. So we got her done, but anyways, so now we're gonna start taking it apart. Rip the carb off, rip the distributor out, start getting it ready for making a trans cross member, and just kind of eyeball everything, make sure we got everything, drain the fluids out of it. Should go pretty quick though. Here we are, first couple hours of wrenching. I'm gonna call her a night, it's getting pretty late, got some errands to do yet. It's already almost into the next day, so. But yeah, I got her pretty well stripped down. I'm gonna start tomorrow by measuring the level of the carburetor flat, basically, so I can know that when I got my new transmission cross member built, that it's the same height at the tail housing of the transmission, and then the carburetor will be at the same level it was. I believe they're pretty well flat, but just gonna double check that, then we'll be ready to go. So this morning, we're out in my parents' garage. This is the home shops, kind of where everything started for me, tinkering on cars and whatnot. The only thing left here that I really need is this tube bender. So today we're just going to be using it to bend the tubes for the transmission cross member. It's a Woodward Fab tube bender. It does 1 3/4. That's the dies it's set up for. You can get different dies, different sizes, but for most race car stuff, that's kind of the size most guys use. I use it the most. It is designed to be horizontal and on a pedestal stand. That takes up a lot of room in a small shop like this. So I came up with a plan to just mount it vertically, and it works really well. If you have a high enough ceiling, you can bend a full roll cage hoop, main hoop, top bar, anything like that. And it's a little tricky working on it like this, but you know, if you're determined, you can do anything with it. So, but I have looked through my whole metal pile here and I can't find anything that'll work. So we're gonna have to take a run out back and go find some metal to use for this thing. So we've taken a walk out back here. Got to get some metal off of this old race car. This thing is an old Junior Hanley super late model. I bought it just for a donor vehicle to get suspension and a rear axle from for my S10 project. Since then, we've basically just cut up little bits and pieces when we need them, and that's what we're going to do today. Now it's a bit of a ways out in the backyard here, so there's no hydro, and I don't own a cordless sawzall, so we're going to use a little bit of a fun tool. It's what you'd call a man saw. As you can see, makes pretty quick work of turning any of these just into straight bars of metal that we can use now. So we're back. We've got our bars cut off that old race car out back. We're gonna get these things ground up. You really don't want any paint on it when you're bending them. So yeah, we'll just grind it all off and then get her bent up. So we've got them all cleaned up here. They don't need to be too perfect, just get the paint off so it'll slide in here nicer. But yeah, when you're using one of these, you want to have a nice clean pipe. Use some lubrication so it doesn't gall the pipe up. So we're just going to give us a little spray in there. We'll give the dye a little bit of spray just to make sure we're going good. And we'll just give each pipe a little coat. This is just generic lubricant, doesn't have to be anything fancy. This one here, just slide it in. I've got these marked at 4 inches just to give a little bit of play room on each end. So I usually line my mark up there with the end. Because it's meant to be used horizontally, this is a little fidgety. It does work, it just, you know, gotta have some patience, but work with what you got, right? So line the mark up, tighten this bolt down. Just snug, just to hold the pipe in place so it doesn't slip when we're bending. I usually let it relax here and I set my 0. So right about there. It's a little temperamental. There she goes. So yeah, I marked this 4 inches here. As you can see here, it takes 12 inches to do a 90-degree bend. That's what we're going to bend as a 90. So yeah, we'll just go ahead and bend her. This machine does work really, really well. I'm very happy with it. For a cost-effective bender. Of course, you can get these with a hydraulic ram on it, but I just don't use it enough to really need that. Plus, there's no heat in here, so bending metal is a good way to stay warm in the wintertime. Alright, so that's the last one. That puts us at 65. This is a bit of an annoying part of it here. To get this, somebody's put this in the wrong way on me. So you go like that, reposition it, you just keep going. $75. $80. There's always some spring back with them too, so you gotta watch that. That's about 98. That's 90 right there. So there we go. That's all there is to it. Pop this bad boy out of here. There we are. Nice 90 bent, no kinks, no bends. Should work good for that trans cross member. We'll do this other one here. So there we go. Now we got 2 nice 90-degree bends. We can use these for the transmission cross member. The plan is to cut them here and here, so that's why we don't really care about down here. We will clean these up a little nicer once everything's put together. It'll get sandblasted and powder coated, so it should look pretty nice. But yeah, we better get back to the shop and get working on it. So before we get going, cutting this cross member out, the original one, we gotta first take one of these angle finders. You could use your phone for this, but this is one I use for building and fabricating. What we wanna do is zero it on something repeatable. So for right now, obviously the truck's not sitting level. I'm just gonna zero it right on there, so we know next time we turn it on, that's what we're gonna zero it to. We'll take it, put it down on the carburetor flat, and we wanna take a reading of that. That's 6.40, 6.50. So that way when we build a new cross member, we'll know exactly that the motor is back at the same height it was. So we're into the truck here. You can see that I've already got the drive shaft out. I've already been tinkering a little bit under here, kind of eyeballing things. So this is a stock cross member. All square body 2-wheel drive trucks have this type of cross member. It's kind of designed for a Y pipe like I was running, and then it Y's under the transmission and comes through here single exhaust. Obviously we want to run duals off the headers for the extra power, but you can see that the collector goes right into this bar and pretty much into the top of this one. So to do dual exhaust on something like this, you're kind of running a zigzag. We don't want to do that. So yeah, we're going to build that new cross member. We're going to take a block, make a mount for the bottom here that'll hold this stock type transmission mount, and then take those 90s we bent yesterday, go up and over to the frame here, make a couple plates up. That should be nice and strong. Might even brace it down to this bottom rail here, but we'll see how she looks all done. Well, there it is. You can see here, she fits great. Lots of room for this dual exhaust. Now the plan is to just run 2 pipes right back, then about right here, kick them on a 45 and go out the side, same side, because the fuel tank's over there. But yeah, I added a couple gussets here. It seems real solid. It's got 3 1/2-inch bolts. Like I say, if we have any issues, I'll add another gusset coming down to here. But for right now, like I was doing chin-ups on it the other night just to make sure it was nice and solid. Don't see too much. The frame flexes a little bit. These are the strongest frames ever made, but I believe it did that before, so I don't think we lost anything or gained anything, but a bunch of clearance. One thing we did have happen over the last couple of days is I came in and the fuel line had rotted out and started leaking, which is unfortunate, but also very convenient that it did it right now and not 10 miles down the road into a cross-country trip. So thankfully that happened, and we can fix that once the transmission and engine are out. It'll take 10 minutes to run a new line, so not really a big deal. Now we'll know it's good. We're going to do a new brake line with it as well, just as, you know, preliminary maintenance. Just, you know, it's the same age of line likely, so it's been sitting beside it its whole life, so who knows how far along that is too. So another thing I want to do to this truck before we take it across the country is change this shifter. I really don't like it. It's the shifter that came out of the 2002 truck that this thing was in. It looks like a 2002 shifter. It really doesn't match the truck. Everything else in here is kind of stock looking. I'd like to keep it that way. So I went ahead and bought a Hurst bench seat shifter with the 5-speed knob to match the pattern on this transmission. And then Low Car makes this really handy adapter that allows you to adapt any 2-bolt mount shifter to the stock transmission shifter. So we're gonna go ahead and swap that out and make sure all this stuff works good before we take the transmission out. That way we don't have anything to bite us in the road later, since we're on such a tight time frame here. So yeah, let's go ahead and get this thing stripped out and make sure everything's good. Well, we got the shifter out of the truck here. Started kind of fiddling with it. Open the shifter adapter up. Did read the instructions a little bit, but there's a lot of words there, so we're just gonna kind of breeze through them as we need. We'll figure it out here. But yeah, let's take this thing apart and see what makes it tick. There we go. That's a whole lot better than it was. Looks great. It's got lots of clearance to the seat. That was the biggest worry because this it's for a bench seat, but it's not really for a 2002 NV 3500 into a bench seat pickup truck. I think it looks a lot more factory. Obviously, we've got to put the shift boot back on. We're going to leave it out for now because this is going to have to come right back off just to get the transmission out. Well, here we go. We've got everything unbolted. Got a jack underneath the back there to kind of support the transmission. We're gonna see if we can't just get this thing plucked out of here and get her on the ground. There we go. Come on, baby. Be nice. Extra set of hands would be nice, but ain't got it today. Fell off the jack. It's all right. Seems to be balanced pretty good right now. Won't fall any further than the floor, I'd say. Come on, baby. Tilt for me. Woo! It's a good thing I popped that pulley off there because that was right on there. And we're changing gears down there. Don't ever do this at home, kids. You never want to get in the engine bay with the big heavy engine. There it goes. Just getting it past that little hump on the firewall. It is a tight fit with that transmission. A little bouncy. It's a little smooth with the pumps here. Again, don't do this. Try to get your buddy to do it for you. Unless you don't really like them that much. Ooh, a little tight. Alrighty. And we make a mess. Well, there we go. It's definitely out. It's on the floor. Didn't go too bad. We didn't drop it. So we'll get this transmission pulled off, and then we're going to wash everything up, wash the engine before we take it apart, and push the truck outside, wash that up, and then start body work and paint. It's just going to be a quick scratch and shoot. It's definitely not a show truck, as you can see. We're just going to try and clean the firewall up. Honestly, it'd probably be good with a good wash, but I have some single stage spray bomb that's kind of the same color. So we'll go ahead and do that, and then just some semi-gloss black on all this and make it look pretty well good. Then if we do ever open the hoods, it might look nice. So yeah, let's get to it. All right, well, we got her on the ground here. Now we can go ahead and get this transmission yanked off. See how this clutch is looking. I haven't had this transmission out since I put this transmission in 2 years ago. I think I put this thing in. So the clutch should have probably a good 20,000 kilometers on it. Let's see what how it's looking. Hopefully it's fine. Wasn't really planning on replacing it just right now, so. Don't really beat on this thing all that much, so I can't imagine it's gonna be in rough shape. There we go. It's not too heavy for a 5-speed. Don't break my clutch line. It's right there, buddy. Not that it really should matter, but since I plan on reusing it, I'm gonna mark it It doesn't really matter. They should be all the same, but I'll just mark it just so we know. When you take these off, you want to crisscross loosen them, just like anything you care about. Well, not bad. You can still see the machine marks and everything, so I wouldn't think that's not reusable. Has very few little hot spots. It looks like it's actually just little rust spots from sitting. Actually right where all the rivets are. This thing's still got lots of life left in it. I've seen a lot worse. Oh yeah, that thing's new still. It's not even really worn in. Yeah, you can still see just machining marks on this thing, so look at that, a little bit of luck. That thing's pretty well stripped down. Probably got to take that flywheel off, put it on the stand. Maybe a couple other things will pop off. Then yeah, tomorrow morning we'll be giving this thing a squirt. Just clean it up. Got a nice power wash job, and we can start tearing her down. Well, good morning. We're back out at the shop here this morning. We're gonna get these things pushed outside and start giving them a bath. We got them everything stripped down, everything sealed up as good as we can. So yeah, we should be good to go to just shove it all outside and start washing it. And then we can tear this motor down, get the heads off, the old intake off, start sizing up everything we need, figure out what we need to get for it. Well, all right. So I got this engine all torn down after I gave it a bath. Everything looks in really good shape for what we're doing here. It does have a little bit of miles on it, but not too bad. It was rebuilt not too long ago by, I'm guessing, the previous owner or one of them. You can still see quite a bit of crosshatch in the cylinders. It's got 30 over flat top pistons. It's had a double roller timing chain put in it. Does have a little bitty camshaft in it. You can hear it when it runs, but I don't know the specs and I'm not about to take it apart just to figure that out right now. I did pull the lifters out just to have a peek at them. They all look okay. Flat tappets lately don't seem to live too long with the new modern oils, but this one seems to be happy, so we're not going to mess with it too much. Yeah, really, it just seems to be in good shape. There's really no ring ridge worn into it. I'm pretty happy with what I see here. I'll roll it over, have a look at the bottom. Alrighty, you can see here, right where that seal rides on the crankshaft, it's got this little groove worn in it. You can just catch an edge on it. You know, it's not terrible. You probably could run it, but they do offer an offset seal to just kind of move this sealing lip over, put it on a fresh part of the crankshaft. So I went ahead and did that just to hopefully help with this rear main seal leak. But yeah, here's all the bottom side of it. Nothing really too fancy, but nothing bad either. So we're gonna get this thing slammed back together. I have already gone through and chased all the threads on the block. Everything looks good there. I got a new timing cover because the old one was damaged. Got all new gaskets for it. So we're just gonna slam this thing back together, put the heads on it and be ready to go. So you might be wondering by now why we're going through all the trouble for this old motor. Why not put an LS in it maybe? Basically, I like small block Chevys for stuff I'm going to drive across the country. It doesn't have any exotic parts on it. If anything were to go wrong, pretty much I could find some old boy with a field of trucks somewhere and he'd probably sell me some sort of small block Chevy that would get me home. This thing runs on, you know, a mechanical fuel pump that every parts store across North America will have on the shelf or could get in a pretty decent time frame. You could rebuild a carburetor on the side of the road. They're really simple. People have told me for years to put an LS in this truck. I'm not really interested in doing it as of right now. To me, it's just more things that could go wrong that I probably can't get parts for that easily. But for just right now, we're just going to throw this set of Vortex on it. We'll talk about the big differences here and why we're doing it. So this is a Vortex cylinder head. It's the most modern factory head that you can get for a small block Chevy. It was basically a test mule for the LS Vortex cylinder head. The Vortex refers to the port. They kind of tried it out on this, whatever castings they could do, whatever they could kind of learn. It's obviously a completely different cylinder head than an LS, but this was the first time they used the Vortex name. For whatever reason, that's what they chose. But yeah, so the big differences is the ports and then the combustion chamber. This has got a modern style combustion chamber as opposed to this bathtub of a combustion chamber on these old smog heads. So we're bumping the compression up quite a bit. We're bumping the flow up a lot. So this thing should make another 50 or 75 horsepower when we're all done. But one thing you need to take into consideration if you're going to do this, you got to get the heads, different set of valve covers. If you have the old perimeter style like this, you need a setter bolt valve cover. You also need a new intake that has the drilling for a Vortex head, which is these bolts are straight up and down as opposed to this one's got them on an angle. But yeah, we'll get this thing put together now. Alright, so we're back here with the motor. Got the valve train all set up. Pretty much gone through and done all 7 of 8 of the rocker adjustments. Thought I'd quickly show you on the last one how I go about doing it. They're pretty simple. This is a hydraulic flat tappet cam, so you basically tighten them down until the push rods have a little bit of play. Like you can just barely spin them just when they start touching the lifter to the rocker. These ones here are just finger tight right now on the jam nut. So basically this is the last cylinder. You just put the socket on there just enough. You don't want to have it jammed down into the rocker like that. So you just put it just on there. It's got a little tight spot. You spin it down. Starts getting closer, you really just feel it about. See right there, you can't turn it, so it's tight. Back it off a little bit, spin it as you tighten it. Doesn't take much. As soon as you can feel some drag, that's 0 lash, meaning basically there's no gap in between here and here, and then also here and there. And then you just, with these, do a half turn. And that's all that is to it. So that was, these are the last 2 left on the whole thing. That one's tight. See, it spins freely there. We just slowly turn it down to feel some drag. That's her. Set it half. That's it. That's all 16 lashed. I did, like I said, I did them all. I just do one at a time, rotate it over quarter turn in the firing order, so 1/8, you know, keep on going. And then, yeah, pretty much good. So now I can just mask this thing all up, give it one last go over, and then we'll get her painted, be bright orange, ready to go. You can throw the intake on and get this thing back in the truck once the engine bay is all painted up. Alright, so we're taping up the motor here. I thought I'd show everybody a little trick here. Some of you may know, some of you may not. Basically, if you have a hard edge right here that you need to tape, these ones are not, you can kind of see right here. It's going to be tricky to do this with one hand. Basically, all I'm taking is this 7/16 wrench. You can take anything hard and smooth and this will work. You just push it down and run it back and forth on that hard edge. This works really good. You can use this for taping, you can use this for gaskets. Just a quick little run back and forth. The big thing here is the corners. Forgive me if this is shaky. This corner too. Alright, that's pretty good there. I'll watch this little magic. Just like that, we got a perfect sharp tape line on the top of that valve cover seal. So yeah, anything you got that's machined hard and sharp, it'll work great on. You can see I did everything over here. Done the china walls with it. Yeah, it works pretty slick. So keep that one in the bank. Well, we've got the engine painted. Well, we're waiting for that to dry. Got some other things painted. I'm gonna go ahead and brace this firewall a bit. You can see here, when I did the manual swap, I put this Willwood compact master on there, and I literally just bolted it right to the firewall because I wasn't sure if this was a happy spot for it. Turns out it works really well there. It's a little bit of a tight area, but I didn't brace it, so you can kind of see it's got a bit of a, you know, when you push on it, it flexes the firewall a bit. So I'm gonna take this rusty piece of metal cut from like a 6-inch 2x6 piece of steel. We had it laying on the scrap pile. Clean that up a little bit and then cut it and shape it, and we can add a brace in here. And then that should eliminate all that flex, and we're gonna tie it into this factory brake master, brake booster brace. This is my little bracket I made up. I put some weld through primer on the back just so after I put her on here, it's not gonna just be raw steel. Fits in there pretty decent. You can see it ties into the factory brace for the brake booster and steering. So yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and grind some paint off around where we need to weld it. Don't need to fully weld it, just gotta tack it all in. Put maybe a good weld here, good weld there, maybe one along here, here, and here. Should be plenty. Once we get that done, we can prime all this, prime the frame, and then put some color on and get this motor back in. Let's get to it. Well, okay, we're back next day here. I did go on ahead and get the firewall primed up, put a couple coats of etch primer on there. It did turn out pretty good. I went through and re-seam sealed this seam under here all the way along. Everything looks good. Gave that a quick shot of paint. And yeah, just was waiting for that primer to dry up. Now we're gonna go ahead and scuff it and then shoot it. And I'm gonna be painting it with this just single stage paint match. I had this stuff made a couple years ago when I did cab corners on the truck, and then I called them up and gave them the number, and they were actually able to make me another can or two. So I can go ahead and paint this firewall. Shouldn't take too long. Just gonna give it a quick scuff with the Scotch Brite and then go ahead and paint it. Well, that's gonna do it for this evening's festivities. Got that firewall painted up, looks pretty good for just a rattle can color matched paint. It will dry to like a kind of a matte clear finish. It's not, when I paint matched it, I had them put it in with this, you can see here, that's it kind of dried in the light. It's pretty close to the original color of the truck. It's a little bit off, just so it's a bit shinier, but so that's what it'll dry to. It's just like a dull clear. Didn't really want to go with too high gloss. I kind of think it'll look nice with that new motor in there, painted up nice and bright orange. I went ahead and got the top of the rad cradle painted too, just because it was kind of needing a heavy coat of paint on there just to look nice and be a little durable leaning over it. Wanted to get that baking on overnight because this stuff takes a little while to dry. That's again just going to be a semi-gloss black here. Gonna go ahead and paint everything else that's kind of gray and should be black. That'll be tomorrow's project, but for tonight we're just gonna shut her down. Well, hello. It's been a couple days now. We're still tinkering on this truck here. I did sneak in and do a little bit of dry fitting of some parts on this motor, just being a new combination. So went through and just test fit everything, made sure what bolts need to be put on where, everything fits like it should because they are different cylinder heads. So we'll get you a look at this thing before I take it back apart to put it in. And I did go ahead and paint the rest of the inside of the engine bay. It's all ready to go. I'll get you to have a look at that too, and then we can get to work. Got to run a new brake line, got to run a new fuel line as well. Put everything back in the firewall before we put the engine in, just because it'll be a little easier to work. And then hopefully this weekend we can get this thing stuffed back in there. We'll get to it. So here's the motor. She's just loosely put together. Got the new headers on there. Just a reminder, those are Summit Racing C10 headers. They are 304 stainless, 1.5" primary, 3" secondary, collector. Went ahead and got all this stuff recoated. It's just like a zinc phosphate coating. Do it on all the bolts. We got a guy local here that does a great job. Threw the new carburetor on there just to make sure. Got these pulleys powder coated, these brackets powder coated, this bracket, bunch of little things here and there. Got just because I was getting that transmission crossmember I built done. But yeah, she's looked pretty good. I do have to take the accessories all back off, minus the water pump, just to get it into the truck because it was pretty close on the top of the rad support last time. And then this intake has not been sealed yet, so we're gonna pop that bad boy off there again and just seal it. I wanted to wait till I was pretty much done with the engine so that I could dump most of the oil down on the camshaft and stuff, just since it's gonna be pretty dry. That way it's still kind of there when we go to start it. And then, yeah, here's the finished engine bay. The firewall looks pretty good. I went ahead and did the whole front frame section. Radiator support, inner fenders, everything. Did do the hood hinges quick, but no big deal there. Yeah, just used the DE 1634 from Duplicolor. It's an engine enamel, so it should hold up to some oil and grease getting on there and whatnot. So yeah, looks pretty good, I'd say. This rad cradle's not in the best shape, but it'll get replaced eventually. I would like to do a full frame off on this thing, but I'm not done having fun with it yet. So yeah, let's get this motor torn down, and then we'll throw all the stuff on this firewall here. I went ahead and got the brake booster and master rebuilt. Luckily my parents own a company that does that, so it's pretty handy. Went out and had that coated as well. This is powder coated and then re-zinc coated the lid, so it's gonna look pretty fresh. And then yeah, that tranny cross member is all done, so have everything here ready to go. All we gotta do is put it together. Well, we've got this thing torn down as far as it's gonna get, but ready to put this intake on. I do have the intake gaskets ready to go. We're gonna go with just some high quality silicone RTV for the China walls here. Basically just really get it in the corners here. Get a good little bead there. We're gonna go back and massage her after. Just go in here and really squish it down into that crevice that the head gasket makes. And since I test fit this already, we already kind of know the gap that the China wall has with the intake. Next, we're going to set these intake gaskets down on there and kind of line them up a little bit. Thinking maybe, just maybe, I'm going to get a little froggy here. Put a real fine layer around these coolant ports. You don't always have to do these, but I don't really have time to take this thing back apart if these do leak. So we'll just err on the side of caution. Just give it a little love. They're used cylinder heads. They got some pitting. I'll do some fantastic finger painting here. Yeah, that's gonna work. You gotta talk nice to these motors, they'll treat you good. Really love on them, you know. They're sweet old girls. They'll take care of you. No need for one of those newfangled LS motors. These old small blocks. They'll get you home. Maybe on 7 cylinders, but they'll get you home. You don't want to use too much. They say it'll ooze out into the engine, clog the pickup screen, starve the engine for oil, blow it up, and you're changing a motor in Farmer Ted's shop while your girlfriend searches cheap flights and rents a U-Haul to move out because she's sick of your crap. So just don't use too much silicone and you'll be fine. I think we got good kerplunk going here. Working on a motor for an old junky truck that ran fine, but we wanted it more fine. Now it's less fine, but that's fine. Intake's on. She's good to go. Well, we're back. We're working. It's getting late here. But we're gonna try and get this thing stabbed in. Got it stripped back down. Ready to put the transmission on here. Try not to scratch my freshly painted oil pan up too badly. Get this tranny stabbed on. Generally, you don't want to use the bolts to pull these things together. They should go together quite simply, like that. If you can't push it together with a hand, something's not right. All right, these two are back to getting along with not too many fireworks. Probably mostly installation error. That's on a low setting. Don't yell at me too much. It's just this drywall again, it's not that powerful. All right. Give me a minute here and we will put this bad boy home. Well, moment of truth here. See if we can get this thing installed without scratching the heck out of everything. Again, doing this by myself. We're nearing, you know, midnight here, so on a long weekend. Normally, you spend all this time and effort painting your firewall, you want to cover it with something. I don't have anything, so I just covered the tailstock. Hopefully it doesn't get scratchy. Where am I now? Oh crap. A little off on the alignment. Just a little sketchy here. Not totally sketchy yet. All right, baby. Treat me nice now. Let's be friends. Knew that was gonna happen. Stuck on the workbench. Round 2. Again, never get the engine bay with a sketchily dangling engine. And if you do, don't tell them I told you to do it. It wasn't my idea. All right. Hammer. Hammered. Success. Alrighty. Now I got one in. Can usually either lift or lower it. This one needs a lift to get it to pivot like that, so you can get the bolt in. Don't do this either, kids. Stick your hands through moving parts. That wasn't my idea. Huh. We're gonna have to wrestle this a little bit better. Oh, it actually has to go down. No wonder it doesn't work. Why didn't you say something? Probably need alignment punch. Come on now. Probably could force it, but don't want to wreck something I don't have to. Oh, rookie. Yeah, that might have been it. That might have been what we were looking for. It was what we were looking for. I used my hammer on the other side. We'll get a real hammer. The screwdriver hammer does not work. Well, there it is. She's installed. You can See that sweet booster and everything that we had redone. It's all in there. All the nuts and bolts look great. Water looks fresh in there. Turned out pretty good, I'd say. I'm gonna call her a night for tonight. Tomorrow's project is gonna be to make this thing a running, driving truck again. Put her all back together. We still got lots of work to do before the trip. Want to take those hubs apart, redo the bearings. Got to do a full exhaust yet. Hopefully that's tomorrow, just to go with those headers. And then, yeah, a little bit of odds and end things to get it ready. And then hopefully you got time to kind of test drive everything, but we'll see how it goes. Well, good morning. We're back at the shop here. Got a big day working on this rig. Got some interesting things we're gonna do. First off, we gotta throw all the wiring back in. Along with that, doing a set of KC lights here on the bumper. Never done these before, never had a set. Pretty excited about them. Have that old retro look and then also help us see some stuff. And then gotta do the full exhaust hopefully today. Never worked with stainless steel before. It's doing a full dual exhaust, 304 stainless. We're gonna MIG weld it and then we'll see how that turns out. So yeah, let's get to her. Well, hello. We're back at the shop again here, ready to get to work. Today's plan is to get the top end of this motor put back together, get the radiator finished up, see what we can do here, maybe run some coolant lines, finish up the fuel system. I do have to check what jets are in that new carburetor, maybe put the jets from the old carb back in it. And then, yeah, hopefully we can just kind of bang this thing out, put some fluids in some places. Depending on if anybody's at the shop with me tonight, maybe I can bleed some brakes, but we'll have to see what we can get done there. And other than that, we just gotta get to work here. Time's getting close. Well, we're under the rig here. Figured I'd show you guys a little trick. Some of you may know this one, some of you may not, so bear with me. As you can see, it's just about impossible to get this liter jug of tranny fluid up in there to put transmission fluid in without making a mess and wasting most of it. This stuff is a little pricey, so we don't want to do that. This is the way we do it pretty much all the time at work. You take a 1 liter jug, 1/2 inch hole, 3H fuel line, little piece of brake line bent, pinhole right in there, and then you can just kind of hook that bad boy in there and apply a very little amount of air. You don't want too much air into the little pinhole here, just enough, but you can pop these bottles. You'll learn that the hard way if you do this enough. This works really well with thinner oil, but it's working all right now. You can literally just watch it go down. You just want to make sure you don't overinflate this. These bottles are not rated for PSI, so just be careful. You can hear it getting empty there. Let me try and wiggle this thing around to try and get more. Alright, that's her. And you can see there's almost no oil left in that. Maybe 50 mils, not even 25 maybe. So we're gonna go ahead and throw this cap and hose onto the next bottle. Do the same thing. Well, today's the big day. We are gonna turn the key on this thing and see if it'll make some noise for us. Got the exhaust all finished up, carburetor's installed. I do just need to install the distributor, if you can see that. But before I do that, I'm gonna pre-lube it with a pre-luber tool. And then we should be good to go to throw the dizzy in and then turn the key. And then hopefully the carb's pretty close. We're obviously gonna have to dial that in, put a timing light on it and get that set. But if we can get that done tonight, we'll be in good shape to button this thing up tomorrow. The only thing really left is I gotta bleed the clutch. I'm gonna pack the front wheel bearings, repack them since we're going on such a big trip, and wanna have a look at the brakes all the way around. And then we're throwing wheels on it and gonna start durability testing this thing, as they say. Well, all right, I think we're ready to turn the key and see what happens. I think timing should be pretty close. I have the vacuum advance plugged off, filled the primary bowl full of some fuel. Shouldn't take too long to suck some fuel. Yeah, I don't know what else. I went through and pre-lubed it, so it's got oil pressure, rotated it, pre-lubed it again. I think we're ready to just turn the key, see what happens. Make sure she's in neutral. Oh, a little advanced. Fired off quick though. That's neat. Whoa! Fireballs. They're really advanced. Thought I was gonna not have enough. Doesn't seem happy. A little less. I think it's running on 4 almost. Maybe we've gone too far. I'll go a little bit more. I'll start going the other way. Hello folks, we're back at the shop here, just doing some last minute things before we head out for this trek. Had a heck of a week trying to get this truck running. It's been running since last weekend. Driving to work Monday morning. I drove it all weekend last weekend, driving to work Monday morning. Cylinder 2 broke a rocker arm stud. And consequently bent 2 push rods, same cylinder, and both rockers. Not really sure if the rockers were cracked before. I guess I should have had a better look at them. They were used, the heads are used, they were refinished, but we didn't change the studs. Know for next time that we probably should just do that on anything that's a used cylinder head. Since then, it's been running great. It did develop a bit of a cold start piston rattle. Seems to be on cylinder 2 as well. Shot a bore scope down in there. Didn't see anything wrong with it. Maybe a little bit of burning, but not really. Did a cylinder leakage test. Valves are perfect. It's really only about 20%, which is kind of normal for a used engine. But it goes away when it's warmed up, so it's not really the end of the world. This thing will probably get yanked and do a full rebuild on it at some point in the future. Other than that, it's a little bit of valve train noise we got when it's getting hot. Again, can't find anything. We've gone through the valve train for hours trying to find anything wrong. Don't find anything. Pretty confident it's going to make the drive. So that's kind of the next game plan here. Is tomorrow we're heading up north and then heading west to Alberta. Then supposed to be going down to Wyoming from Alberta, so we'll see. It's about 8,500 kilometers or 5,000 miles roughly. Should be a pretty fun adventure. Hopefully the motor holds on. I think it will. Pretty confident in it. I did an oil change, cut the filter open. No metal, so, you know, likely not too big of an issue if there is an issue, and hopefully it's got this trip left in it and it'll treat us good. But yeah, so next time you see us, we're going to be heading up north, starting this adventure. Probably going to start filming once we kind of get off the major highways and get onto the 2 lanes, and then we'll go from there. So thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for the next one.